Hello, this is Mrs. Hamm, and I'm going to show you how to take Cornell Notes. I will expect you to take Cornell Notes all year for various assignments for our language arts class. Why are we using Cornell Notes? A couple of reasons. They're all listed here. I will explain them briefly. You cannot write in your textbook, and on the online textbook you can't write on it, obviously, and there is no way to save your annotations. So I need you to have a way to take notes, to interact with the text that you can write and that I can look at and you can have to refer back to. If you have a library book, or if you borrow a book for a friend for one of the assignments in class, you're probably not going to be able to write in those either. So these Cornell Notes will give you a way to complete the annotations and to interact with the text there too. Also, probably the biggest reason for me to be using these so much more this year than I have in previous years is that with the new online state testing that you're going to have to be doing, they are going to have you reading texts online, and you need to have a strategy for taking notes to refer back to when you're answering the questions for those texts. And Cornell Notes is a very good strategy to have, to use, to answer those questions with those texts for the online testing. Okay, I need you to start with blank lined notebook paper. Mine is still in the notebook. Notice that it is wide ruled, not college ruled. I don't really care which one you use, as long as you do have lined notebook paper. And you will need to tear it out of the notebook. Okay, fold it into thirds. Do not crease it. You are going to open up, as you see on the right here, you're going to open up the right side, and you're only going to crease the left side. Once you have done that, draw a T. I used permanent marker. You can use permanent marker. You don't have to. Whatever you want to use is fine. But the left side of your paper, that left column there, should be smaller than the right side. Okay, here's how you should format it. You want your name and the date in the upper left-hand corner. In the upper right-hand section, you're going to put the title of whatever text or notes you're taking. Here I have my sample that I'm going to be using for this PowerPoint. And I know I'm going a little fast. The reason that I put this in a video form is so that you can pause it and go back and watch it anytime that you want, and it can take you as long or as quickly as you need it to. So again, here's my sample that I formatted. I put my name, Jessica Hamm, up at the upper left-hand corner. Right underneath that, I put the date, July 25th. In the upper right-hand section, I put Of Plymouth Plantation by William Bradford. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to use that, which is the first text that we will be reading in the 11th grade curriculum. So I chose that one. Okay, here is the sample text. I will be working with these couple of paragraphs throughout the whole video. I wanted you to see it before I marked it up a little bit. You see it says from chapter 9 of their voyage and how they passed the sea and of their safe arrival at Cape Cod. Okay, the first thing that you can look for is headings, subtitles, and bold print. These are all suggestions that I'm giving you. You do not have to choose these things to put on your Cornell Notes. I do highly recommend that you look for these. There is a reason that I'm giving you these strategies, but you don't have to use them, and I'll explain that at the end. Here we have the heading. Later on, I believe on the next page, we start chapter 11. So this will help if we put chapter 9 in our Cornell Notes, and there is the sample. If we put chapter 9, we can put all of our notes for chapter 9 underneath that, and then we can begin chapter 11 at that point. So anytime you see headings, subtitles, bold print, it is good to go ahead and mark that down. Okay, the next thing we can look for is vocabulary. Sundry is a word that I myself didn't know until I read this. So I went ahead and circled that one, or actually I put it in a red square there. In sundry of these storms, the winds were so fierce. It sounds good, I didn't know what it was. So I looked down at the bottom. Sundry refers to an indefinite number. So there I have my vocabulary term, and I have my definition. Your definition will not always be on the same page for you. You may actually have to look it up, and with smartphones it's so easy, just Google it. Okay, so here we have chapter 9. So I know that their sundry is at the beginning of chapter 9. I wrote sundry down on the left-hand side of that line, and then I have the definition, an indefinite number, to the right. I also, underneath the definition, put there were sundry storms on their trip to Cape Cod. I did not take that word for word from the text. I put it into my own words. Now I can remember how the word was used. And I also put it into my own words, which is a different way for my brain to process it. It will help me not only remember what happens in the story, but also it will help me remember what the word sundry means. Okay, another option you have is characters, setting, and main ideas. I'm going to be giving you reading quizzes on almost every piece of text that we read. I am going to expect that you know characters' names and how they interacted in the story. I'm going to expect you to know setting, places, times, and main ideas of what you read. This is a good way to write those down and have them as a quick reference to study before you take that quiz. In this case, on our sample text here, we have John Howland. You can see that he has been squared off in red on the left, and I have that nice big red square that explains what happens to him in the story. So I have everything I need for my Cornell Notes. Here we have John Howland. I put his name on the left, and then I gave my own description of what happened to him on the right. There's a lot there, but it's really not as descriptive as the last page. Please notice, I'm not worried about spelling or grammar. I'm just looking for you to have the correct information that you need. Okay, another option that you have are questions, comments, and observations. It was difficult in those two paragraphs there to come up with a good question. Here's what I have. How many people were on board the ship? Also notice here, as you look in the left column, because I'm only putting a few words there and the bulk of my writing is going on the right, really the purpose of that left column there is for me to keep track of where each of my notes are. So, okay, I remember reading about John Howland. Where was he at? Oh, okay, I can go back and I can find his name quickly when I need to study. And there are my notes. Okay, how many people were on board the ship? That was my question, my sample question. I did find an answer, about 100. You may not always find an answer for your question. In this case, I did. And I found it in the chapter 11 section. So I put chapter 11 in parentheses so that I knew I didn't find it under the chapter 9 section. I would like for you to include a summary. As you can see, mine is very brief. It's a couple of sentences. Yours can be very brief too. You can be as brief or as long-winded as you want. Again, this is a tool for you. I personally prefer to be brief because I just need a quick idea of what was in that section so that I can go back and look when I'm analyzing or when we're having discussion in class. Again, I'm really not worried about spelling or grammar either. And the last option that I have for you, and I really strongly encourage you to do this because this is what we're going to be analyzing. This is what we're going to be talking about. This is what we're going to be looking at mostly throughout class, throughout the whole year. We're going to be examining each text, each literary piece, and how they fit into a literary genre or a literary period. You should be taking your notes for the literary genre or the literary period before you start reading. So you should have those at your disposal when you're reading and when you're doing your Cornell Notes. In this case, the one that I found in our brief text there, our sample text, was biblical references. And if you look, my explanation is when John Howland was saved, they attributed his survival to God. So there we have that biblical reference to God and how he saved John Howland, which I'm not going to get into now. That is all for a different set of notes. Couple of things to remember. I said this already. Don't worry about grammar or spelling. I am going to focus, when I grade, I'm going to focus on what information you put in your Cornell Notes. Is it good? Is it stuff that's going to help you study, to prepare for the tests, to analyze the texts? That's what I'm looking for. And the only wrong answer is to write nothing. The more you write, the better. The more notes you have, the better. You may have 1 page, your friend may have 5 pages for the same text. You may have 7 vocabulary words, your friend may have 2. It doesn't matter. Use this as a tool to help you study and to prepare to analyze the text and to have discussions in class. That is what these are for. I am not going to check and see, do you have 5 vocabulary terms or 3 characteristics? That's not as big a deal for me as the fact that you are actually working with the text and being genuine and original in them. Okay, that's it for the Cornell Notes, and I will see you in class.